The creature wasn't supposed to be alive. Across the silent wasteland of the abandoned moon, the wind dragged dust across shattered rocks and broken metal. No cities, no signals, no life. At least, that's what the galaxy believed. Dr. Marcus Hale tightened the straps of his worn medical pack as he stepped away from the smoking wreckage of his small transport ship. The crash had been violent, the hull torn open like paper when it slammed into the planet's rocky surface. His communicator was dead. His engines were gone. And rescue, if it came at all, would take weeks. Marcus exhaled slowly, scanning the endless gray desert. Great, he muttered, stranded on the quietest rock in the galaxy. But then he heard it, a sound carried by the wind, not the howl of the storm, not shifting metal from his ship. A growl, low, deep, painful. Marcus froze. The sound came again, this time weaker. A strained, ragged breathing that didn't belong to anything small. His heart began to pound. There were no registered life forms on this moon, which meant one of two things. Either the scans were wrong, or something had come here to die. Gripping the flashlight from his pack, Marcus slowly climbed over a ridge of black stone. Each step felt heavier than the last. His mind screamed at him to turn back, because somewhere in the back of his memory, a terrible thought was forming. And when he reached the top of the ridge, he saw it. The ground below was torn apart, as if a war had been fought there. Massive claw marks gouged deep into the rock. Burned craters scarred the earth. Broken pieces of alien armor and weapons were scattered everywhere. And in the center of it all, something enormous moved. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The creature lay half buried in dust and blood, nearly 4 meters long, covered in dark armored scales that looked stronger than steel. Long curved claws dug into the ground as it struggled to breathe. 2 glowing eyes opened slowly. Predator eyes. Marcus staggered back a step as realization hit him like a shockwave. He had seen this species before. Not in person, but in every warning broadcast across the galactic networks. A Vakesh predator, the most feared hunter species known to dozens of star systems. Entire military squads refused to fight them alone, and one of them was lying wounded just 50 meters away. The predator tried to rise. Its muscles trembled violently before it collapsed again, releasing a deep, pained snarl that echoed across the empty valley. Marcus could now see the injuries. Deep plasma burns across its chest. A shattered limb twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood, dark and thick, soaked the ground beneath it. This wasn't a monster preparing to attack. This was a creature that had barely survived a war. Marcus's mind raced. If the creature recovered, it could kill him in seconds. If he walked away, it would die alone out here. The predator lifted its head again. Those glowing eyes locked onto him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The most dangerous predator in the galaxy, and a single-stranded human medic. Marcus slowly swallowed. Every survival instinct screamed one word: run. But Marcus Hale had spent his life following a different rule. You help the wounded, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done. His hands trembled slightly as he reached into his pack and pulled out a small medical scanner. The predator watched him carefully. A weak growl vibrated from its throat. Marcus took one slow step forward, then another. The wind howled across the valley as he walked closer to the creature everyone else in the galaxy feared. 30 meters. 20. The predator's claws flexed weakly against the rock. Marcus stopped just outside its reach. Up close, the creature was even more terrifying. Rows of razor teeth, massive muscles beneath its armored scales, a tail strong enough to break bone with a single swing. And yet, its breathing was shallow, its strength fading. Marcus slowly raised his hands. I'm not here to hurt you, he said quietly. The predator didn't understand his words, but it understood something else. Marcus stepped closer, slowly, carefully, and for the first time in its violent life, a human reached out and touched the dying predator. The creature flinched violently. Its eyes widened in shock, because in all its years of hunting across the stars, no one had ever tried to save it. And far above them, hidden beyond the clouds, 3 alien hunter ships had just entered the moon's orbit. They had come to finish the predator, but they were about to discover something impossible. The most feared monster in the galaxy was no longer alone. The moment Marcus's hand touched the creature's scales, the predator reacted, its massive body tense. A deep, Thunderous growl vibrated through its chest, echoing across the shattered valley. The sound alone made the rocks around them tremble. Marcus froze. He knew exactly what those jaws could do. One bite from a Vakesh predator could tear through armored soldiers like paper. Slowly, very slowly, he pulled his hand back. "Easy," he whispered. The creature's glowing eyes remained locked on him. They burned with instinct. Predator instinct. A hunter that had survived countless battles across the galaxy. But something was different. The predator tried to lift itself. Its claws dug into the stone, muscles tightening as it attempted to rise. For a moment Marcus thought it might actually stand. Then the creature's injured leg gave out. The massive body collapsed heavily back to the ground, releasing a pained snarl that quickly turned into ragged breathing. Marcus saw it clearly now. The predator wasn't pretending. It was dying. Deep plasma burns had melted parts of its armored scales. One side of its rib cage looked partially crushed. Dark blood continued to slowly spread beneath it. No creature could survive wounds like this for long. Marcus's heart pounded. If the predator gathered even a little strength, it might still attack him out of instinct. And if that happened, there would be no escape. But the medic in him refused to walk away. Marcus slowly opened his medical pack. The predator immediately reacted. Its eyes narrowed. Its claws flexed weakly against the ground. Marcus raised both hands again, showing the small medical scanner. "Just checking," he said calmly, even though he knew the alien couldn't understand him. "That's all." He crouched down a few meters away and carefully activated the scanner. A soft blue light spread across the creature's massive body. The scanner beeped once, then twice. Then it started blaring warnings. Marcus stared at the readings. Internal bleeding, severe fractures, organ trauma, and something worse. Poison, Marcus muttered under his breath. The scanner highlighted a strange chemical spreading through the creature's bloodstream. It wasn't natural. Someone had poisoned it. Marcus glanced around the battlefield again. The broken alien armor, the burned craters, the scattered weapons. This hadn't been a simple fight. This had been an execution. The predator shifted again, its tail dragging across the ground with a heavy scraping sound. Its breathing was getting weaker. Marcus looked down at his limited supplies. 2 med patches, a bone stabilizer, 1 vial of universal antitoxin. It wasn't much, and he was about to use it on the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. Marcus let out a slow breath. "Well," he muttered, "this is definitely the craziest patient I've ever had." He stood and stepped closer. Immediately the predator reacted. Its head snapped toward him. A warning growl rumbled deep in its throat. Marcus stopped just outside its reach again. "I know," he said softly. "You don't trust me." The creature's glowing eyes narrowed. Marcus slowly knelt down beside its injured limb. Up close, the wound looked even worse. The bone had partially fractured, and the surrounding scales were cracked from heavy impact. If it tried to stand again, the leg would snap completely. Marcus carefully pulled out the bone stabilizer. The predator watched every movement. Marcus could feel its breath against his arm. Hot, heavy, powerful. One wrong move, and those jaws would close around him. He swallowed. "All right," Marcus whispered. "Here we go." He reached forward and gently pressed the stabilizer against the injured limb. The device activated with a soft hiss as it expanded around the fracture. The predator roared. The sound exploded across the valley like thunder. Its massive claws slammed into the rock, shattering pieces of stone. Marcus stumbled back, heart racing. But the creature didn't attack. Instead, it simply collapsed again, breathing heavily. The stabilizer had locked the bone into place. Marcus stared at it in disbelief. "You didn't kill me," he said quietly. The predator's glowing eyes slowly turned toward him again. There was still pain in them, still instinct. But now, something else was there. Confusion. Marcus reached into his pack again and pulled out the antitoxin vial. "If that poison keeps spreading," he said softly, "you won't last another hour." The predator watched the small injector carefully. Marcus slowly extended his hand again. The valley fell completely silent. A human medic, a dying alien predator, and a decision that could end in death for either of them. Marcus pressed the injector against the creature's neck and activated it. The medicine flowed into the predator's bloodstream. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature's breathing suddenly deepened. Its muscles twitched violently. Marcus stepped back quickly, unsure what the reaction would be. The predator's glowing eyes widened as the antitoxin began fighting the poison. Its claws dug into the ground. Its massive chest rose and fell as if it were pulling air for the first time in hours. Marcus watched the scanner again. The toxin levels were dropping. "It's working," he whispered. For the first time since Marcus had found it, the predator slowly lifted its head. Not to attack, not to threaten, just to look at him. And in that moment, something impossible happened. The most feared hunter in the galaxy realized. The fragile human beside it had just saved its life. But neither of them knew that high above the moon's atmosphere, alien hunter ships were already locking onto the predator's location. And this time, they weren't coming to fight. They were coming to finish the hunt. The valley remained silent except for the sound of heavy breathing. Marcus sat a few meters away from the massive creature, watching the readings on his scanner. The antitoxin was working. Slowly, very slowly, the deadly poison that had been spreading through the predator's bloodstream was beginning to weaken. The flashing red warnings on the scanner shifted to yellow. Not safe, but no longer dying immediately. Marcus let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "Good," he murmured. Across from him, the Vakesh predator moved again. This time the motion was stronger. Its claws dug into the stone as its massive body shifted slightly. The bone stabilizer Marcus had attached held the injured leg firmly in place. The creature lifted its head. Its glowing eyes found Marcus instantly. The medic froze. For several long seconds, neither of them moved. Marcus could see the intelligence in those alien eyes now. This wasn't just an animal acting on instinct. The predator was thinking, studying him, trying to understand why the fragile human had helped it instead of running. The creature slowly pushed itself upright on its front limbs. Marcus tensed. "Hey, easy," he said quietly. The predator growled softly, but it didn't attack. Instead, it shifted its massive body until it was sitting upright, its injured legs stretched awkwardly to the side. Even wounded, the creature towered over Marcus. Up close, he could see more details of its armor-like scales. They were layered like natural plates, each one scarred from past battles. This creature had fought many wars, and survived them all. Until now. Marcus carefully stood up, keeping his movement slow. "You should rest," he said. The predator tilted its head slightly. Its glowing eyes narrowed, studying his face. Then something strange happened. The creature slowly lowered its head toward him. Marcus held his breath. The predator stopped only a few inches away. Its breath was hot against his skin as it inhaled deeply, almost like it was smelling him. Marcus didn't move. After a moment, the creature pulled its head back. It didn't growl. It didn't bare its teeth. Instead, it simply watched him. Marcus blinked in surprise. "Are you curious?" he muttered. The predator shifted slightly again, adjusting its massive body against the rocks. Marcus glanced at the battlefield around them once more. Now that the immediate danger had passed, the evidence was impossible to ignore. Scorch marks from plasma cannons, broken pieces of alien armor scattered across the valley floor, and something else. Marcus walked over to one of the fallen pieces of armor and picked it up. The symbol on it made his stomach tighten. 3 jagged lines crossing a circle. The mark of the Ziran hunters. Marcus looked back at the predator. "Let me guess," he said quietly. "They came after you." The predator remained silent, but its claws slowly tightened against the ground. The Ziran hunters were infamous across dozens of star systems. They didn't just hunt for survival. They hunted for sport. The most dangerous creatures in the galaxy were their trophies. Marcus slowly turned, looking across the destroyed battlefield. There had been many hunters here, but none of them had left alive. He looked back at the massive alien beside him. "You fought them all," Marcus whispered. The predator's glowing eyes flickered slightly. But before Marcus could say anything else, the creature suddenly stiffened. Its head snapped upward toward the sky. Marcus frowned. "What is it?" The predator let out a low warning growl. Its tail scraped against the rock as it struggled to stand. Marcus quickly checked the scanner. "Hey, don't move too much. Your leg." Then he heard it, a faint sound far above the clouds. Marcus slowly looked up. At first he saw nothing, just dark storm clouds swirling across the sky. Then 3 tiny lights appeared high above the atmosphere. Marcus's heart sank. They grew larger quickly, descending. Ships. Marcus grabbed a piece of hunter armor again, staring at the symbol. "No," he whispered. The predator growled louder now. The sound rolled through the valley like distant thunder. Marcus's scanner suddenly picked up multiple signals. 3 ships, and dozens of life signs. Marcus slowly turned toward the wounded creature. "They came back for you." The predator's glowing eyes burned with sudden fury. Despite its injuries, it forced itself onto its feet. The stabilizer on its broken leg held, but barely. Marcus stared up at the sky again as the 3 hunter ships broke through the clouds, their engines glowing bright blue against the darkness. They hovered above the valley, scanning, searching. One of the ships rotated slightly, and a bright red targeting beam swept across the ground. Marcus's stomach dropped when the beam passed directly over them. They had been found. The predator lowered its head and released a deep, threatening snarl. Even wounded, it was ready to fight again. Marcus looked up at the descending ships, then back at the injured predator beside him. A single thought hit him like a wave. The hunters weren't just going to kill the creature. They were going to kill any witness. Marcus tightened the straps on his medical pack. "Well," he said quietly, glancing at the massive alien beside him, "I guess we're both in trouble now." Above them, the hunter ships opened their weapon ports. The hunt had just begun again. The hunter ships descended through the clouds like dark metal predators. Their engines roared across the empty valley, shaking the ground beneath Marcus's boots. Dust and loose rock swirled violently as the 3 ships slowed above the battlefield. Marcus shielded his eyes from the wind. Beside him, the Varkesh predator lowered its massive head and released a deep, furious growl. Even injured, it looked terrifying. But Marcus could see the truth on the scanner clipped to his belt. The creature was still weak. It had barely survived the poison. If the hunters attacked now, it wouldn't last long. The ships hovered above the valley for a moment. Then the first one landed. Metal landing legs slammed into the ground with a heavy boom. A ramp slowly lowered from the ship's side. Marcus's stomach tightened. Figures began walking down the ramp. Tall, armored. Each one carried heavy plasma rifles glowing with blue energy. Ziran hunters. Marcus counted quickly. 1, 2, 5. 8 of them stepped onto the battlefield. More lights flickered from the other ships as additional hunters prepared to disembark. This wasn't a hunting party anymore. This was an execution squad. One of the hunters stepped forward. His armor was darker than the others, decorated with rows of sharp trophies hanging from his chest plate. Claws, teeth, pieces of bone. The leader, his helmet scanned the valley before locking onto the wounded predator. Marcus heard a distorted alien voice echo from the hunter's helmet speaker. "Target located." Several hunters raised their plasma rifles. But then something unexpected happened. The leader's helmet tilted slightly. He had noticed Marcus, the human standing beside the wounded predator. The hunter slowly raised one hand, signaling his soldiers to pause. Marcus felt the predator shift beside him. The massive creature pushed itself fully upright despite the pain. Its claws scraped against the stone. Its glowing eyes burned with fury. The hunter leader spoke again, his voice cold and amused. "A human." The other hunters murmured quietly among themselves. Marcus stood still, trying not to show fear. The leader took a few slow steps forward. "You stand beside the beast we came to kill," the alien voice said. "Explain." Marcus glanced briefly at the injured predator, then back at the hunters. "It's wounded," Marcus said calmly. "I treated it." The valley fell silent. For a moment, none of the hunters moved. Then several of them suddenly laughed. The harsh alien sound echoed across the rocks. "You saved it," one of them said mockingly. The leader stepped closer, examining Marcus carefully. "Humans are strange creatures," he said. "You healed a monster that has slaughtered entire hunting squads." Marcus didn't answer. Behind him, the predator growled louder. Its tail lashed across the ground. The hunters immediately raised their weapons again. Blue plasma barrels pointed directly at the creature's head. Marcus's heart began to race. One shot would finish the predator instantly in its current condition. The hunter leader slowly lifted his rifle. "Step away, human," he said. Marcus didn't move. The hunter tilted his head slightly. "You wish to die with it?" Marcus took a slow breath. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the valley. He stepped forward. standing directly between the hunters and the wounded predator. The Ziran soldiers froze. Even the leader seemed surprised. Marcus raised his hand slowly. "It's not fighting anymore," he said. The predator behind him released a low snarl, as if disagreeing with that statement. The hunters chuckled again. The leader's rifle aimed directly at Marcus's chest. "You misunderstand," he said coldly. "This hunt ended long ago." He pointed the weapon slightly toward the predator. "But we return for the trophy." Marcus shook his head. "You poisoned it." "That is the strategy of hunters," the leader replied calmly. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "That's not hunting," he said. "That's murder." The hunters shifted uncomfortably. The leader lowered his rifle slightly. "Step aside, human. You are not our target." Behind Marcus, the predator suddenly took a heavy step forward. Its injured leg trembled under the strain, but it moved anyway. Marcus glanced back in shock. The creature slowly positioned itself behind him, not attacking, not retreating, defending. The hunters noticed it immediately. One of them spoke nervously. "It protects the human." The leader stared at the scene in disbelief. The most feared predator in the galaxy, standing guard behind a fragile human. Marcus tightened his fists. "You're not taking it," he said firmly. The hunter leader's patience ended. His rifle snapped back up. "Then you will die with it." Behind Marcus, the predator roared. The sound exploded through the valley like a thunderstorm. The hunters instantly opened fire. Blinding blue plasma bolts shot across the battlefield. Marcus dove to the ground. The wounded predator lunged forward with a deafening roar. Even injured, the monster of the galaxy had chosen to fight. And this time, it wasn't fighting alone. The first plasma blast struck the rocks beside Marcus, exploding in a shower of molten stone. He rolled across the ground, covering his head as the valley erupted with light and sound. Behind him, the Vakesh predator roared. The wounded giant charged forward. Even with one injured leg, the creature moved with terrifying speed. A hunter fired directly at its chest. The plasma bolt struck its armored scales, but instead of falling, the predator crashed into the soldier like a living avalanche. The hunter's armor shattered under the impact. The other Ziran soldiers immediately spread out, firing in coordinated bursts. Blue bolts streaked through the air. The predator dodged one blast, but another struck its shoulder, sending sparks and smoke across its scales. Marcus felt a surge of panic. "You're going to kill it," he shouted. No one listened. Marcus scrambled behind a shattered piece of alien armor and looked around desperately. The hunters were too organized, too well-armed. Even a Vakesh predator couldn't survive this many plasma rifles for long, especially injured. Another explosion shook the valley. The predator slammed one of the hunters against the rocks, but two others immediately fired at its side. The creature roared in pain. Marcus clenched his fists. "Think!" He looked at the battlefield again. Broken weapons, damaged armor, scattered hunter equipment. Then he spotted something half buried in the dust. A hunter plasma launcher. Marcus ran toward it. Blasts streaked overhead as he slid across the ground and grabbed the weapon. It was heavier than anything he had ever used before. He didn't even know if it would work for him. Behind him, the predator was struggling. 3 hunters were circling it now, firing repeatedly to keep it pinned down. The creature swiped one away with its massive claws, but another plasma bolt struck its injured leg. The stabilizer sparked. The predator staggered. Marcus felt a cold wave of fear. If it fell now, it was over. He lifted the launcher, pointing it toward the hunters. "Hey!" The shout echoed across the valley. The Ziran soldiers turned in surprise. The human they had ignored was now standing with one of their own heavy weapons. Marcus tightened his grip. "Leave!" he shouted. The hunter leader stepped forward again, his voice calm. "You cannot even operate that weapon, human." Marcus wasn't sure if that was true, but he pulled the trigger anyway. The launcher roared. A massive bolt of plasma shot across the battlefield and exploded against the rocks beside the hunters. The shockwave knocked 2 soldiers off their feet. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. The predator saw the opening. With a thunderous roar, it charged again. Its massive claws slammed into one of the soldiers, sending him crashing across the valley floor. The remaining hunters quickly retreated toward their ships, firing as they moved. The leader stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then he spoke into his communicator. Withdraw. The surviving hunters began boarding their ships. Marcus kept the launcher aimed at them, his heart pounding. The engines of the ships ignited again. Dust storms swirled as the vessel slowly lifted off the ground. The hunter leader's voice echoed one final time across the valley. This hunt is not finished, human. The ships rose higher into the sky. Within seconds, they disappeared back into clouds. The valley fell silent again. Marcus slowly lowered the launcher. His arms trembled from exhaustion. For a moment, he simply stood there, breathing heavily. Then he heard the sound behind him. Heavy footsteps. Marcus turned slowly. The Vakesh predator stood several meters away. Smoke rose from the wounds in its scales. Its injured leg still trembled. But it was alive. The creature stared down at Marcus. Those glowing alien eyes studied him carefully once again. Marcus dropped the launcher to the ground. Well, he said weakly, that was exciting. The predator stepped closer. Marcus remained still. The creature lowered its massive head slightly. Not a threat. Not a warning. Something else. Recognition. Marcus slowly reached out his hand again. This time, the predator did not flinch. His fingers touched the creature's armored scales once more. A strange calm settled over the valley. Two beings from completely different worlds. A human healer, and the most feared predator in the galaxy. But now, across the stars, the hunters would carry a story back with them. A story no one would believe. That a human had done the impossible. A human had healed the monster everyone feared. And the monster had chosen to protect the human in return. Far above the planet, the hunter ships vanished into deep space. But the legend had already begun spreading. A new story whispered across the galaxy. Not about a predator. Not about a hunt. But about something far more dangerous. A human who befriended the monster of the stars. Rocket,